Hello and welcome back to Simple Money Podcast, Canada's own personal finance podcast, presented in short and informative episodes. I'm your host, Matthew Seawick, also known as the Friendly Financial Coach. So first of all, thank you so much for being so patient. It's been a little while since I've released an episode, and I can assure you that there will be more coming on the horizon. So today, we have the first out of 2 episodes about the federal budget and how households will be impacted. I actually sorted through the 450-page plus document to get all this information. So in this episode, we're going to focus on how the budget impacts students, recent graduates, and first-time homebuyers. Then next episode, we're going to focus on all the other changes that have been announced. So there are many changes coming for students. So first up, interest rates on federal student loans and Canadian apprenticeship loans are dropping. For all variable loans, the floating interest rate will be dropping to prime, and fixed loans will be dropping to prime plus 2% instead of the previous prime plus 5%. This is a really big change and one that will help millions across Canada. This change is expected to begin in 2019 or early 2020. Next up is that there will no longer be interest charged during the grace period on the federal portion of student loans. This was a 6-month period, typically after graduation, where federal interest would accrue, but no payments would be made. Now, that interest will no longer accrue. However, on certain provincial loan portions, such as the Ontario portion, there still will be interest that will accrue for that 6-month period. It's expected that this change and the drop in interest rates on student loans will save students approximately $2,000 each over the lifetime of their loan. This change is also expected to begin in 2019 or early 2020. Students will also be allowed to take temporary leave from their studies. So this exemption applies to students taking temporary leave from their studies due to medical, parental, and mental health reasons. After the changes, students taking leave for qualified purposes will not be required to make loan payments, be penalized, or be charged interest on their federal loans. This will be available in 6-month periods that can stack for as long as 18 months. Changes are also being made for students with disabilities. So to increase access to education for students with disabilities, several changes have been made, including increasing the Canada Student Grant for service and equipment for students with permanent disabilities from $8,000 to $20,000 per year. This effectively helps disabled students afford the equipment and services that they require. There are also plans to increase the availability of the severe permanent disability benefit so that more student borrowers with severe permanent disabilities can qualify for loan forgiveness. A third change for disabled students is that there will be a reduction in barriers to students with permanent disabilities that return to school after long absences. Eliminating restrictions that prevented borrowers that use the repayment assistance plan for borrowers with a permanent disability attend school until their outstanding loans were paid off in full. All of these 3 initiatives that benefit students with disabilities will be gradually rolled in beginning in 2019 to 2021. Another very big change that will benefit graduates is helping financially vulnerable individuals. Previously, repayment assistance was not available to those that had defaulted on their student debt. Budget 2019 announced that this will change. So this will help financially vulnerable graduates access affordable payments to help them eliminate their debt. And the final big change for students is the additional funding that is being provided to expand parental leave coverage from 6 months to 12 months for students and postdoctoral fellows who receive granting council funding. Previously, these individuals do not qualify under traditional EI benefits and were not able to get the full benefits that are available for working Canadians. There are also quite a few changes that were announced for first-time homebuyers. Generally, to qualify as a first-time homebuyer, your spouse or common law partner and yourself could not have owned a property in the current year or any of the 4 preceding years. There are other rules involved, but this is the big one. However, if you are expecting to use any of these programs, it's always recommended to confirm that you qualify for them. So the first big change is that the amount that you can borrow from your RSPs is increasing from $25,000 to $35,000. Yourself and a partner can take out this amount for a total of $70,000. The federal government has announced that this change has already begun. So another big change in the first-time homebuyers plan, and this one actually hasn't been discussed very often in the media, is that individuals from relationships that break down, so they would have to be a marriage or common law, can use the first-time homebuyers plan even if they would traditionally not qualify. And this would begin for withdrawals after 2019. One of the rules for this is that you will be required to sell the old residence within 2 years from the end of the year that the withdrawal under the new first-time homebuyers plan is made. Also, if you move in with a new spouse to an existing property, you can lose this exception. The last big change that's affecting first-time homebuyers is something called the first-time homebuyers incentive. And this is based on a financial model that has been used by nonprofits and affordable housing associations for several years. So how this works is that CMHC actually helps pay for the purchase of your property, either 5% for existing or 10% for new builds. CMHC would then retain partial ownership of your property and would be repaid once this property was sold. The main purpose for this program is to increase accessibility to those that want to buy a home. The federal government has announced that they're going to try to launch this program in September 2019. There are, however, a lot of rules that come along with this program. So the maximum household income has to be under about $120,000, and also the insured mortgage and benefit cannot be more than 4 times the household income. So what this means is that the purchase price of a home is essentially capped at up to $480,000. Also, you're still required to have a minimum down payment. So that's it for today, but we're going to be continuing this discussion next week, where we cover some of the other benefits that will be impacting households. You won't want to miss it. Thanks again for listening to Simple Money Podcast. If you have any questions, you can always contact me at info, at ffcoach.ca, or you can find me on Twitter at f_fcoach. Take care and talk to you soon.